Hello everybody, Gisele Grenier here. In this video, I'm going to make a cover, the other side of the cover for my art journal. So I want to show you, this is what I did in the previous video. And I'm thinking now I want to make this as the back cover because I want to make this, this one has a lot more cracking. So, and then what I'm going to start doing now is on the inside cover is I'm just going to do a very light background because I want to do some writing. The inside front cover will be the intention of the journal, and then the inside back cover will be what I experienced through working in that journal. So I'm going to go over the supplies that I've pulled out initially, but I'm going to cover everything I actually used at the end of the video. So with this here, I already did another video on how to do this cracking, and it was done with gesso. I use DecoArt Americana multi-purpose sealer to cover shiny packaging. So product packaging that has a gloss finish on it. So I put that on there, and then I applied a coat of DecoArt Chalky Gesso, the white, and then I just put it down to dry and got this cracking. And it's got to do with the chemistry. Either the multi-purpose sealer wasn't completely dry yet, which is what I'm thinking, and then similar to the chemistry of using oil paints, of putting oil paints on top of another layer of oil that hasn't dried yet, is that as it contracts, and that's where the cracking happens. Okay, so that takes care of that. Let me just get this out of the way. I have so much stuff on my table. So again, product packaging, and cut to whatever size that you want. And then if you want a really quick way that's going to guarantee to work every time, DecoArt Media Crackle Paint. And you just brush it on. You don't overwork it because then you're going to lose the cracks. But you just brush it on and you let the magic happen. Now what you can do as well is on the product packaging, you can do a light sand, gesso, paint it a dark color or a contrasting color, then apply the crackle paint, because as it cracks you'll see dark parts inside. Okay, now what I've got here, I've got DecoArt Media Fluid Acrylics, Primary Magenta, Phthalo Blue, Carbon Black, Titanium White, and DecoArt Media Matte Medium for my glue. I've also been really working with the DecoArt Americana Decoupage Matte Medium. This is much thinner. I don't have to water this down depending on what I'm working on. And then I've got two sets of metallics, DecoArt Matte Metallics Champagne, and this is wrong. This is wrong. Sorry. Champagne and Vintage Brass. I wanted two levels of matte shine. And what I've got here, and I'm not sure how this is going to quite work. I tested it on the other page. A Versamark watermark pen, the Versamark stamp pad, Ranger Perfect Medium, and then my StazOn pad. And I'll explain these when it gets to that stage. Stamps. I've got, my favorite stamp, and this is really wearing down. It's a bunch of moth stamps, and I've got my butterfly here. And I really have to push it down. Absolutely love this stamp. I have no idea where I got it. A bunch of cores. So this is wrapping paper core, and I don't know what this one was from. It's small. I have no idea what this was from. And then a little tube. This is from a brush cover, paintbrush cover. So I've got those. And some stamps. So I've got a ticket, and I've got a bunch of, I put a bunch of random stamps on my table here. I am not going to use all these, but I totally forgot I had them. So got a grungy clock and some text. Oops, that was probably really loud through the microphone. Music and whatever. So my problem, and I got lots, is out of sight, out of mind. I've got stuff organized so well and put away in boxes, but I forget that I have it. Just some random torn script paper or scrapbook paper, and enjoy the journey. So the whole thing with 2022 is to create stuff that makes me happy. Not what makes you happy, what makes me happy, but at the same time, what I want to teach you that whatever it is that I teach, adapt it to your own style. That way you don't have to, if you don't like something that I do, and you know what? There's stuff I can guarantee that 75% of the stuff that I do, you guys don't like, but there's a technique involved. Okay, it's the style. So with that in mind, I'm going to enjoy the process of teaching you, not the finished piece that I created. Okay, it's the journey, the process. That's what I want to really take advantage of. And in each project is to do one experiment. That really hasn't changed. So with that, this one here, I've got some embossing powder, and this is my challenge as well. I'm not experienced in that. So first thing I'm going to do, and I'm working on white paper because of the glare, I'm going to take my paintbrush, which is, there it is, and I'm going to take some Decor matte medium, and I'm going right over the cracks. This is creating a barrier layer. If I were to paint directly on top of this gesso, it would just sink right into the gesso. What I want to do is, with this barrier layer, is I want to be able to manipulate the paint and then wipe some of it out if I want. Because we're working with cracks, if you wanted to darken up those cracks, you want to do it before doing this step. Okay, put that aside. Oh, let me just get, I've got too much stuff here. All right, so I'm going to have to let that dry. Now with the background, let's see. Oh, really, I'm going to be using all the paints. I want to, Joe said he's not making me a bigger table. Mean man. I want to take the primary magenta. Now the primary magenta is PV19, which is a violet, and the phthalo blue, which is a blue that leans towards green. So it's kind of on a weird side of the color wheel, more green, more red. So between these two, it is going to grade down a little bit. And then I've got some black, which will work with the edges, and then some white splatter. So I put out the blue, the magenta, and the white out here. And let me just get these out of the way. And I'm going to grab a big round brush with some water. And I want to really mix that up. So for sure the white, and then the magenta. Lots and lots of water. Now in the other video, I had used the actual Decor medium misters, but not everybody has stuff like this. So, and those are permanent; they're not water soluble. And if I was a palette knife, where would I be? Now, if you had a watercolor well, that would be ideal. Okay, takes care of that. And so what I'm doing is I'm just moving the blob of paint the white I don't have to worry about yet. So loading a brush with a lot of water coming in, and I initially want to get it started. Yeah, that's actually not going to be too bad. I don't want it to be too deep. So spray it, drip it, and there's a lot of drying time with this. So, you know, if you're in a hurry, then you'll need a heat gun. Is that going to be enough? Should be. So leaning that into a little block helps with the dripping. And then with each layer that you put on, you let it dry. Another layer, let it dry, and then you can alternate between colors. And this is what I mean about using, you know, a style that works for you, because you may not like these big bold colors. You may not like the big bold colors. I'm looking more for the actual technique, the actual style. Now, the other thing I can do, oh shoot. Okay, where is, oh seriously, I see it all the time. I've got an eyedropper. Oh, flippin' heck. Okay, well, guess not. Guess not. The other thing is to take an eyedropper and then just drop the paint on there. Okay, so again, if you let it dry naturally, it's the best thing because you'll get ridges of paint around each of these drips. Using a heat gun, though, you can manipulate the paint to go where you want. And because these are permanent, these are acrylics, is that every layer you put on, it's not going to dissolve. So now if I wanted to really focus on the bottom, turn it around, it'll bring the paint back down. And I'm just going to get a rag. So, oops, this way, so you can see how those beautiful lines there. So I'm going to repeat it again. A lot more water. Now I want to take some of this magenta, clean my brush, and I want to apply the magenta everywhere. See how it turns purple when it touches the blue? So that's just going to stain the background. Now this one here, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go opposite. Look at what's happening. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to darken the camera. Hang on a second. Okay, hopefully you can see that a little bit better. I have a big light overhead and it's causing some grief when it comes to filming. Okay, I definitely don't want that there. Again, it's just all you're doing is just spray, drip the paint, dry, blot. And I'm looking for all these irregular shapes. And sometimes when you have one that you really like, just let it dry naturally. Here we go. Now again, you may not be a fan of the colors. That's not the point. It's just the technique. Okay, and this part here isn't dry. It's a little strong. Ooh. And as you blot that out, what it leaves behind is that edge, which I really like. All right, repeat it again. A lot more water, running out of water. And I'm going to go back with the blue. And the paint that I put down on the table, you really only need, maybe this much. Because not that big puddle, because you're adding so much water to it. Now the paper is bent, so none of it's going to go in the middle. So what I need to do is guide it. So let's bring everything back down. And then, there we go. See how it's just floating on the top? It's because of the matte medium that's on there. Oh, look at that. Look at that. It's like it's marbled. Okay, I'm going to watch. I'm going to guide it on the edge. Okay. Turn it. Use the power of whether you use a heat gun or a hair blower. create some interesting shapes. Oh, no, I don't want to lose that. You couldn't paint it on like this unless you really knew watercolor techniques and brush techniques. And this is so much easier. And I'm not losing the cracks. So when you're using the heat gun, you're forcing the air is forcing the paint to go into different areas. But if you find a pattern that you like, let it sit. But remember, you know, if your cards are bent like this, like mine is, you can always iron it at the end. But just remember that as you start working, rarely can you plan out anything like this to be, you know, you lay the paint down and it dries like that. You want to do that, work with oils. And I'm going to go back to the magenta and, oops, water. Now I'm going to spray just here and here. Let's see if we have to drop that. Let's see what happens. Actually, no, let's do this. Because I want to stain the white, but then I want to blot some of it out with the paper towel. And then I'm going to turn around, I'm going to darken this corner here just like this. Yeah, that's better. Actually, I may not have to blot it out. I think it's going to be alright. See how it's drying? You get those nice edges. Now, you probably didn't see that. The paint bubbled up here. It's too close. I try to keep my hand near, like right in front of the heat gun, randomly. And if my hand can take the heat, then it's fine. Okay, so now it's time to do the other side. I'm running out of water. Actually, not running out of water. I've got a cheap water bottle. And I want to focus on that corner quite a bit. Let's get that going there. See how it's leaning this way? Because it's bent. And if you want, oh, sugar. Okay, don't do what I do. I just got paint in my coffee. Oh. You can drip some water to encourage it to move a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to turn it. I want to bring a little bit more on the side here. I think I'm liking that. So now I'm going to go opposite the direction. I'm going to blend that in a little bit more. Now, if you know you want your colors to be intense, then just use a little bit more paint. I wanted mine to be very washy. There we go. You almost need a third hand, which, by the way, does exist. It's a it's a soldering tool. Okay, so now I just sprayed it, then dipped it. I'm gonna use the paper towel. I just wanted to darken that corner up just a little bit more. I'm gonna go blow dry it in the opposite direction. So the beauty of this technique is that you get something different every single time. You'll never get the same effect twice. There we are. Done. Now, unfortunate thing is all this loose stuff here, but what you can do with that is just in these pages we'll end up making some interesting backgrounds for some cutouts. I can use that for something else. I think I made more of a mess than anything else. There we go. So I'm going to clean that up now. And the next step, we're going to do some splattering. Inky white. And this you do at your pleasure. This takes time to dry though. This, I'm not going to use the heat gun. I want to focus on a dry surface. Okay, that's it. Yeah, way too much paint. So now I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to give it probably about 15 minutes. It has to be completely dry because I want the actual dots to be visible. I don't want them to dissolve. Now, if you wanted to do something faster, you can use a stencil. Something like this. This is a Kaleidoscope Stencil from DecoArt. You can use that and you can stencil it and then use a heat gun if you want it flat. But I want the actual organic shapes of the splatters. Okay, so I'll be back in about 15. Okay, I knocked down the lights a little bit more because it's a little too bright. And I've put out some DecoArt Matte Metallic, the vintage brass, and the champagne on the paper. And just to show you, see those beautiful dots? It took about an hour for them to dry. So now I'm going to take these cores and tubes and all that other stuff. And, oops, get my palette knife. I'm just going to spread this out to an even layer. It'll make sense once I start doing it. Basically, I'm just dipping in the flat part, which gives a broken look. Okay, now into the gold. Too much. Oh, okay. So I'm thinking that it's not quite thick enough, or it's too thick. So stamp in, stamp off. And I'm doing this because I will use this as backgrounds for something else. And I'm going to very lightly, like super light, go behind where the butterfly is going to be. Now this one I can't cut the tube. Hopefully it won't hit the camera. Let me just flatten that out a little bit more. Yeah, I'm going to hit the camera. Whoopsie, sorry. I wonder if I can just, oh, I can't even break it. Yeah. Now my hands are killing me. Oh. All right. Oh, I like that. I like that. Mm-hmm. I spent hours creating graphics that look like that. Okay, I think we're pretty good now. And what's left is just the baby. But this one here, it's going to go straight on. Okay, that's that. So I'm going to take that and put that aside. Okay, now this has to be dry before we do the next step, which is the stamping of the butterfly, but I can do the embossing first. Just going to dry the outside. And oh, I didn't use my little paper. Nah, I don't think I'm going to use that. Okay. So what I did with this is I experimented with now I am not by no means an expert on embossing. It actually causes me nothing but grief. But so I've got a Versa marker, which is a watermark pen, and I can go along the edge like this. Be very specific as to what I'm putting it on. Then I can take some embossing powder. I think I'm going to have to go to the actual tube or the actual container. So I'm very careful with this because it makes me sneeze. I try not to. That's why you have to wait for the paint to be dry. No, I'm going to leave that. I actually like that. And then from here is you heat set it. So that's with the pen. That on the side. You see. And this particular one is just a mixture of all the leftovers that I just mix up. Like there's some silver, there's some black. What you have to be careful is when you're doing this, because of the heat required for the embossing, you have to make sure you don't burn the paint, and that's what you get. Okay, so that was with the pen. The other way I was trying to experiment with was using the stamp pad, and you know, just by pushing it like this. Okay, covering that up. And these are very slow drying. Then just dipping like that. That actually doesn't work out too bad. Okay, put that over there. And one experiment that I was going to try, but with how much heat you have to get on there, was taking carbon black, painting it, and then doing the embossing. But I don't know if that might be a bit too much, but I love this like that. And then what I did is I experimented with the Ranger Perfect Medium, but this one here seems really goopy. You see, it's kind of all, to me, it feels like it's honey. Now again, I'm not an expert in this, so if you guys have done this, did this come out? No. Oh, that's really, ugh. Now this thing is about 4 years old, but it's very goopy. I don't know if that's just from age, but I'd like to hear from you guys. Anybody who uses that product. I mean, but look at the amount of embossing powder that it holds. I love that. Okay. Oh. There's a technique to embossing. I'm just basically kind of using common sense on this. To me, this particular, the way that I'm doing it and the actual powder mix, it looks like it's soldered. That's what I was going for. So, well, I guess I can just, well, this one was out, might as well use that. So it needs to be slow drying for it to stick on there. A regular stamp pad just doesn't cut it. And I'm going to run this one through again. Oops, wrong side. Yeah, that's perfect. So the goopy makes it really nice and uneven. I like that. There's a particular product out there. It's ultra thick embossing powder. So, I mean, I tried doing it with the regular embossing powder and it doesn't work as well. I'm thinking if you emboss really thick and before it's had time to dry, can you stamp in it? I wonder if you could do that. But then at the same respect, you know, you could just use modeling paste and then paint it metallic after. Nice. So what I'm going to do now is to, oh, this is where I'm going to start to sneeze. Okay, so that's dried now. Now I'm going to repeat the same step with the actual butterfly in there and emboss it. This, I'm not good at this at all. So I'm going to use the Versamark one. Oh, and this stamp is in really, really rough shape. If any of you guys know how to re-put adhesive on those, let me know. I was just going to use tape, but come on, the stick. I don't know if that's going to work. Oh, nope. Okay. Well, we'll have to try. I don't know if that's going to be enough. I don't think so. But you know what? I've already put it on, so whoopsie. And this is where, you know, how do you fix if you're not sure? Because it's an uneven card. Nope, I am not doing that by hand. This looks like cigarette ashes. I don't know how far I went. Oh, okay, it sort of worked. It sort of worked. Well, I guess I could just brush it off and then re-stamp it, right? Is that how you would do it? Let me know, because I'd be curious. Okay, I'm going to put that in there. just brush this off. Yeah, so what do you do? I mean, I know I can brush it off. So if I wanted to basically start over, do I just brush the whole thing off and then heat set the where's the mark? Let's see what happens. Come on, heat up. I gotta really watch the paint. Make sure I don't burn it. Oh, that's beautiful. That. The idea that I had for this experiment was, and I probably still could because it is darker here, I wanted to go in with liquid glass inside each of these pieces, but in here they actually connect, so the embossing would have created an edge. It didn't happen though, so the liquid glasses would actually go all over the place. No, so I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. But that would have been really neat. Yeah, because it'll all seep in here and here and here. All right, so need your help, you guys, to let me know how do you fix, like, if it doesn't stamp properly, and you pour the powder and it's still not right. Like, do you just brush all that stuff off? And then what do you do with that stuff? Can you reuse it for something else? Probably not. And the other question was, how do you put new adhesive on that? Like, I was gonna think about using like Easy Tack on that. That might work. That might work. Okay, so that's what's left. I really would like to have used that though, but no, let's just use this. And while we're on the liquid glass thing, depending on where it is, I would like to have done something. I wonder if I can just do a rough I could have done a smaller. Let's try. This is gonna be my experiment. So only on, I'll do it just on the top part of the stamp. Okay. Oops, that's the bottom part of the stamp. Oopsie. Or is it? Yeah. Ah, perfect. There, so it's just not so empty. And this is the DecoArt Media Liquid Glass. Of course, you're stuck. Get my... You know what? Hang on. Just a minute. Just a minute. This is probably not what I should be doing. Wonder what it would look like if this was embossed. I've never embossed this stuff. Wonder if it would burn. Let me just dry that. Yeah, I wonder what that would look like embossed. Just on the edge. I think it would look pretty. Are you kidding me? Here we go. There. Nice. Yeah, I would like to have done, I could probably do it here, but it's very heavy on this side. Too bad. Okay, that's going to be, so 2 questions you guys to help me with. So I've stamped, embossed, decided I want to start from scratch. How do I clean it off? And yeah, is this normal for this to be all gunky? That was the only 2 questions, right? I think so. So here we go. Now, what I didn't tell you guys was when it comes to binding this, so let me just get my, so all I did was I took thick scrapbook paper, and it's just one-sided. What I can do is that when I actually go to create, I can glue these back to back to make them nice and thick, edge them and whatever, but most of the background will not take part of the actual design. And so with this, okay, is the way to bind this is that you can use a hole punch, 3-hole punch, or you can, there's a variety of stitches that you can use for this. And I'm thinking with this is I'm probably going to do a binding technique of binding individual sheets into the piece, but the goal is that it must open flat. So that's what I'm going to probably do. Now, most of the journals that I've set up for this year are individuals. I'm going to bind everything at the end. I am going to pick one where I'm going to bind it ahead of time. I hate when I can't work on a whole piece, so we'll see what happens. Anyways, that's it, you guys. So let me just put this aside. And now I'm going to go through the supplies here. There is, I brought one out and then one I didn't use. So, oh, whoopsie. Now, if you don't like the colors, that's fine. That's fine. Make it your own. Use the technique and make it your own. Okay? Okay. Start off. To do the initial piece, the initial design, okay, where I use multi-purpose sealer, and then use the DecoArt Chalky Gesso to do that. And that was, you know, in the beginning. If you don't want to use this, then instead just use crackle paint. Okay, so that's how the base was done. The DecoArt Matte Medium, I used 3 colors. The DecoArt Media Fluid Acrylic Phthalo Blue, Primary Magenta, Titanium White. DecoArt Matte Metallics Vintage Brass and Champagne. DecoArt Media Liquid Glass. So a regular Versamark watermark stamp pad, perfect medium, and stays on jet black. And embossing powder. And then whatever, this is just plain, but this is a mixture of gold, or silver and black. And then a butterfly. Oh yeah, that was the other question for you guys, how to re-put adhesive on that. So, and then some stamps. Oh yeah, and the Versamark watermark pen. So that's what I actually use. I'm looking here to see. I'm pretty sure there's something else that I'm missing. Oh, and then little water bottle. Did not use carbon black paint. But there we go. So that's what I've got here. And oh yeah, and then the card. So this is the paper has been cut to size to this. But what I'm going to do though is I'm going to, on the outside edges, I cut it exactly to size, but I'm going to be roughing it up so it looks like torn paper just on the outside edges. This will be a bound edge, but this will be torn, because I definitely want to do these back to back, especially because they're going to be bound. I'm just not sure the method that I want to use that, but I'll be documenting that in another video. So, a couple of questions for you. Let me know answers to the questions in the comments below. And if you create something inspired by this, again, doesn't matter about the color. It's just more use the techniques and make it your own. Share a link to where you posted on social and post a link to that below so I can take a look at it. Love seeing what you guys end up doing. All right, that's it. Gonna clean up this mess. And until I see you in the next lesson, stay inspired.